You can't heal in the same environment that's hurting you. That line isn't just poetic. It's a brutal truth most people ignore because facing it means making uncomfortable choices. It means stepping away from comfort zones that have become cages. It means looking at the people you've loved, the spaces you've grown in, and realizing that what once gave you life is now bleeding you dry. Healing isn't just about self-help books, therapy sessions, or journaling affirmations. Healing is about extraction, pulling yourself out of the soil that's poisoning your roots. You don't plant a rose in concrete and expect it to thrive. So why do you keep planting yourself in environments that don't nourish you and then blame yourself for not blooming? Painful environments don't always look like war zones. Sometimes they're calm, predictable, familiar. But familiarity is not the same as safety. The people around you may smile, they may hug you, they may call you family or friend. But behind those smiles could be resentment, competition, manipulation, or the subtle art of emotional sabotage. You start feeling guilty for wanting peace. You begin apologizing for needing space. You downplay your success to make others comfortable. That's not healing. That's surviving in a war you weren't meant to fight. You wake up drained. Your goals feel distant. Your confidence shrinks a little more every time someone mocks your progress, dismisses your dreams, or reminds you of your past to keep you small. You start believing the lies. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You owe them because they were there but none of that changes the fact that your soul is quietly screaming for air in an environment that doesn't know how to feed your growth. It's like asking a cage to teach you how to fly. You're waiting for support from people who get nervous every time you talk about evolving. The healing process isn't just internal to you. It's geographical, emotional, spiritual, and relational. Your energy reacts to the energy around you. If you keep bathing in toxic water, don't be surprised when your wounds get infected. You can't detox in a house full of emotional clutter. You can't rebuild self-worth in rooms that echo your past failures louder than your present efforts. You can't find peace in conversations that revolve around chaos. You can't learn self-love from people who profit off your insecurity. And sometimes the most dangerous environments aren't explosive, they're quiet. You start normalizing emotional neglect. You minimize how often you're ignored, criticized, or emotionally dismissed. You gaslight yourself into thinking you're just being dramatic, when in reality you're dying a slow spiritual death surrounded by people who are too broken to notice or too selfish to care. These environments don't just hurt you, they shape you. They rewire your brain to fear growth, to associate peace with loneliness, to see self-prioritization as selfishness. Healing requires confrontation. You have to confront not just what hurt you, but where it hurt you and who kept you there. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. Why do I stay? Who am I protecting by shrinking myself? What would happen if I chose myself? That fear you feel when thinking about walking away, that's the cage talking. That's not your truth. That's the emotional programming created by years of tolerating dysfunction labeled as loyalty. You weren't made to keep tolerating spaces that break your spirit and then call you dramatic when you say you're hurting. You weren't made to fix everyone around you at the cost of your own well-being. You weren't made to stay in cycles that bruise your heart and confuse your mind. All while you're expected to smile and keep the peace. Healing demands separation. Distance isn't betrayal when closeness is causing damage. Time apart isn't cruel when staying together is crueler to your soul. You've been watering dead soil hoping for new life. You've been planting dreams in darkness and blaming yourself when nothing grows. It's not you. It's the environment. It's the air you're breathing, the energy you're absorbing. The cycles you're stuck in. Loyalty to toxic people is self-betrayal in disguise. It hides under the mask of honor, of duty, of tradition. You tell yourself you're being loyal, but deep down, your soul knows you're abandoning yourself every time you silence your pain to keep the peace. You call it patience, but it's really paralysis. You call it understanding, but it's really avoidance. You wear your suffering like a badge of strength, not realizing that every time you choose their comfort over your well-being, you're sacrificing yourself on an altar they'll never even notice. That's not love. That's emotional slavery disguised as commitment. People are taught to be loyal, to stick it out, to ride or die. But what happens when the person you're riding for is the one steering you off a cliff? What happens when the people you've sworn to stand by are the very ones tearing you down behind closed doors? you. The truth is, toxic people don't need your loyalty. They need your silence, your fear, your guilt. And if you're not careful, your loyalty becomes the leash they drag you around with you. It becomes the invisible chain that keeps you circling the same emotional pit, convincing yourself it's noble to suffer. You keep showing up for people who never show up for you. You keep defending those who weaponize your kindness. You keep giving chance after chance, thinking that if you just love them harder, fix yourself more, tolerate just a little longer, they'll change you. But they don't, because why would they? Toxic people thrive when they know you'll keep forgiving. They study your patterns, they learn your weak points. And the most dangerous part of you, they make you feel like the villain every time you try to stand up for yourself. You become the problem, the disloyal one. The one who changed. But the real betrayal isn't when you walk away. It's when you stay silent, when you keep swallowing pain, when you allow their dysfunction to become your new normal. Self-betrayal creeps in quietly. It looks like biting your tongue when they cross the line. It sounds like forcing a smile when they humiliate you. It feels like exhaustion wrapped in obligation. And soon, you start forgetting who you were before the loyalty became a prison. Your dreams fade, your energy drains, your voice dims. You become a caretaker for someone else's chaos, someone else's brokenness, someone else's ego. And here's the twist: the longer you stay, the more you start blaming yourself. You internalize their projections. You begin to think maybe you really are too much, too sensitive, too dramatic. You question your own instincts. You justify their cruelty with their past, their struggles, their stress. And in the process, you abandon yourself again and again. That's not loyalty. That's self-destruction on repeat. The hardest pill to swallow is that loyalty doesn't always mean love. Loyalty can be trauma bonding. Loyalty can be manipulation. Loyalty can be fear dressed up as duty. You stay because walking away feels like betrayal. But the real betrayal happened the moment they stopped honoring your value. The moment they started using your love as leverage. The moment they convinced you that your silence was strength. And maybe worst of all, the moment you started believing them. That you think loyalty means holding on. But sometimes the strongest, boldest form of loyalty is letting go. Loyalty to your peace. Loyalty to your healing. Loyalty to your future. Because you don't owe endless access to people who keep you small. You don't owe your loyalty to anyone who uses it to break you down and then blames you for bleeding. When loyalty costs your sanity, it's not a badge, it's a burden. And if you're not careful, that burden becomes your identity. Self-focus isn't selfish, it's strategic survival. That truth might make some people uncomfortable, especially the ones who benefited when you put yourself last. But discomfort doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're waking up. It means you're seeing that self-neglect disguised as humility is just another form of slow self-destruction. You were never meant to be the one constantly pouring while staying empty. You were never meant to dim your light so others could shine. Self-focus is not abandoning others. It's finally refusing to abandon yourself. People have been trained to believe that putting yourself first is wrong, that it's prideful, arrogant, even narcissistic. But what they won't say is that self-sacrifice is only romantic when it benefits them. The moment you stop showing up at everyone else's convenience, the moment you stop making your needs negotiable, you become selfish in their eyes. But here's the real truth. There's a difference between selfishness and self-respect. There's a difference between being self-centered and being self-aware. One is about superiority. The other is about survival. You can't serve from an empty vessel. You can't lead, heal, or give authentically if you're constantly at war with your own needs. You burn out. You break down. You lose track of who you are while trying to keep everyone else's lives in order. You call it love, but it's really avoidance. You fear that if you stop playing the role everyone expects, you'll lose their approval. But what good is approval if it costs you your identity? What good is being needed if it only means being used? Self-focus is how you reclaim your time, your clarity, your boundaries. It's how you get honest about what fuels you and what drains you. It's waking up and realizing that not every request is your responsibility. Not every emergency needs your intervention. Not every person who demands access deserves a front row seat in your life. When you start focusing on yourself, you stop operating from guilt and start acting from grounded intention. You stop being reactive and start being strategic. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and realize it's happening through you. There's power in choosing yourself, power in protecting your mental health, power in saying no without apology, And make no mistake, it takes courage to walk away from roles you were never meant to play. It takes strength to rewrite narratives where you were the rescuer, the fixer, the silent sufferer. But self-focus gives you that strength. It puts you in a position to choose relationships, not depend on them. To give without bleeding. To love without losing yourself. People will guilt you. They'll throw your past in your face. They'll say you've changed. And they're right, you have. Because change is what happens when survival stops being enough and fulfillment becomes the goal. You stop asking for permission. You stop needing validation. You realize that focusing on your growth, your peace, your purpose is not something to be ashamed of. It's the only way to thrive. It's how you stop being a background character in your own life and step into the lead role. The world doesn't benefit from your exhaustion. It doesn't grow from your self-abandonment. It gains nothing when you stay small to make others feel comfortable. But when you focus on yourself, truly unapologetically, you become a force, you become aligned, you become clear. You become dangerous to every system that wanted you silent, compliant, and broken. Self-focus is how you rebuild from the inside out. How you stop measuring your worth by what you do for others and start defining it by who you are when no one's watching. It's how you rise without resentment, lead without losing yourself. And love from a place of wholeness instead of wounds. The greatest act of self-love is choosing yourself, even when it breaks the room. It's standing in a space full of expectations, obligations, and old roles, and deciding that your sanity, your peace, and your purpose matter more than keeping everyone else comfortable. It's not a loud declaration or a dramatic exit. It's a quiet, steady choice, one that often comes with shaking hands and a heavy heart. But it's also a choice that reclaims your life piece by piece, breath by breath. Choosing yourself doesn't always look beautiful at first. Sometimes it looks like distance, silence, and grief. Sometimes it means walking away from people you never thought you'd leave. Sometimes it means becoming the villain in stories you were once the hero of. But make no mistake, that kind of decision, that kind of courage is love at its rawest, truest form. Most people aren't taught how to choose themselves. They're taught how to serve, how to please, how to survive. They're taught that good people sacrifice. That love means staying. That self-worth is found in how much you can endure. So you learn to bend, to stretch yourself thin, to tolerate disrespect in the name of loyalty. You swallow your voice to avoid conflict. You downplay your needs to keep the peace. You wear a smile that feels more like armor than expression. And you do it all so that the room stays intact. So the family isn't disrupted. The friendships aren't shaken. The image isn't tarnished. But in doing so, you break yourself silently. Choosing yourself means you stop buying into the lie that your value is tied to how well you can perform in someone else's script. It means you finally pause and ask, what do I need? What do I want? What am I willing to walk away from, even if it means being misunderstood? The truth is, when you choose yourself, it will offend people who are used to you choosing them first. It will disappoint those who relied on your silence, your submission, your predictability. You'll see how quickly love becomes conditional when your boundaries disrupt someone else's comfort. You'll be told you've changed, that you're cold, that you're selfish, and you'll start to wonder if they're right. But deep down, there's a voice that will whisper for you. This is what freedom feels like. That voice is your truth, the one that's been buried beneath years of guilt, fear, and emotional labor. The one that always knew that love shouldn't hurt you, that peace shouldn't feel so far away, and that your needs weren't meant to be the last priority. When you choose yourself, you're not just setting boundaries with others. You're also setting boundaries with the part of you that believed you were unworthy of being chosen. You start repairing the version of you that accepted breadcrumbs and called it care. You begin healing the wounds that taught you love has to be earned through pain. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes choosing yourself looks like declining an invitation, turning off your phone, or taking a walk alone. Sometimes it's leaving the room during a conversation that crosses a line with you. Sometimes it's not explaining why you need space. Sometimes it's waking up one day and realizing that silence is kinder than forced connection. The outside world may not understand it, But self-love isn't about getting external applause. It's about internal alignment. There's a cost to choosing yourself, and the cost is real. You might lose people. You might feel lonely. You might doubt your decision on the hard days. But what you gain is something far more valuable than proximity or approval. You gain the right to feel whole, to wake up without dread, to live in spaces that honor your presence rather than exploit it, to exist without constantly negotiating your worth. And eventually, that kind of alignment becomes magnetic. You start attracting peace instead of chaos, people who respect your boundaries instead of testing them, opportunities that match your truth instead of demanding your compromise. You also start hearing yourself again, not the voice shaped by trauma or the voice molded by expectations, but the real you, the one that dreams, that laughs freely, that creates without fear. You begin trusting yourself. You stop over-explaining. You stop seeking permission. You start walking into rooms knowing that your value isn't up for discussion. You stop needing everyone to agree with your decisions because you're no longer building your life on their comfort. Choosing yourself is the moment you become the author, not just the character. It's where healing begins, not because life gets easier, but because you stop betraying yourself to make it easier for others. You learn to sit with discomfort, knowing it's the gateway to growth. You learn to carry the weight of being misunderstood, knowing that peace is worth more than being liked. You learn to see yourself as worthy, not because of what you do, but because of who you are when you finally come home to yourself. And as you do that, something inside shifts. The shame starts to fade. The guilt starts to lose its grip. You begin to recognize that the room that broke when you chose yourself wasn't sacred. It was suffocating. You realize that the love that couldn't survive your truth wasn't love. It was control. You learned that the version of you that kept everything together was doing so out of fear, not freedom. And now you're learning to live from a place that no longer needs to be rescued because you finally rescued yourself.